What day is it, Mark?
Oh, good question. I was going to go on the Google machine, but I think it's Friday.
It's Friday. You know what that means, Mark?
Rapid Fire Friday.
Boom, boom, boom. Rapid Fire Friday.
Rapid Fire Friday. Email question from Catherine Jordan. Thanks for considering these if you get to them. The first one is double predestination. How can we say God predestined people to be saved without saying God predestined people to go to hell? Do you want me to leave off there and then come back around for the next one?
Yeah, they're different. Now, people say many things when they say double predestination. I don't hold to double predestination the way most people talk about it. Double predestination, the way most people talk about it, is the teaching that God elects some to receive the gospel and be saved, and he elects others to go to hell. So we clearly see a degree of election all over the Bible. We see it. The Lord chose Israel, not Egypt. The Lord chose Israel, not the Philistines. The Lord chose Israel, not the Mayas, the Incas, and the Aztecs. The Lord chose Israel and not other nations, right? And so we also see in Ephesians chapter 1 that the Lord elects before time began. Now, in election, he actively works grace and favor into the lives of the people. Now, to believe that he would elect people to go to hell would mean that he would actively work rejection and hate toward him into their lives. He doesn't have to actively work that sin into their lives. The people who are not elect, they're not going to be able to point to the Lord and say, it's because you didn't elect me that I'm not saved. What it's going to be is their fault, right? Now, how this works is it's a mystery. It's really difficult, right? It's more of a philosophical argument to say, if God elects some to heaven, he elects some to hell. Now, he elects the ones he elects to be with him for all time. That does not mitigate. It doesn't destroy our responsibility. But in election, he doesn't elect to reject in the sense that, okay, I'm going to make sure that this person turns their back on me. I'm going to make sure that this person has no time for me. I mean, to elect someone to go to hell, it would be that way. I'm going to make sure that this person is evil. I'm going to make sure that this person has all kinds of hatred for his fellow man. And so that's something that the Lord would never, because he's not the author of evil, he would never do that. What we have, though, is God electing some by grace to be saved. And others who do not choose to bow the knee, they are the ones that end up being, and if they die in their sins, they're apart from God for all eternity. Because the reality is, without God's intervention, nobody would come to him, because he's not keeping people out of heaven. It's not as if he's getting people, oh no, you can't come, you can't come, you can't come. Nobody would come if it wasn't for his action in eternity past, according to Ephesians chapter 1. According to 1 Timothy chapter 1.
Right. And what would you say to what we deserve based on our actions?
What we deserve based on our actions is death and hell. I mean, we were dead in our trespasses and sins, Ephesians 2 says, but he has made us alive. He's the one who's done this work. See, a lot of times what people do is they take what's called hyper-Calvinism. It almost presents the Lord as the author of sin. That's a gross mischaracterization of God. They present hyper-Calvinism as like mainstream Calvinism. But what we can say is that God chooses some and we must exercise saving faith. That's true. And even when we share the gospel here, we have a bridge course going on. When we share the gospel here, we don't say, if you're elect, you can believe. We preach the gospel and pray that the Lord allows the Spirit of God, the conviction of sin, to lay hold of some people so that they put saving faith in Jesus Christ. Right? And so we don't ever bring up the topic of election. It's just in the Bible, and we can't interpret ourselves around it.
That's right. Well, thank you for answering that, and thank you for asking the question. To her next question, a slightly different topic. With all the Bible has to say about witchcraft and sorcery and mediums, how can we justify watching movies, purchasing merchandise, reading books such as Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, and more? Where is the line of legalism and obedience to the Bible?
Well, I think the this is a question of practice. This is a wisdom practice.
Yeah.
Different honest Christians are going to disagree about. So what the Bible is against is the practice of witchcraft, occult, and magic. And so the prohibition is against people using magic. So what magic is, sorcery, witchcraft, all that stuff, it's a desire to tap into the supernatural without God. Like to go to see a fortune teller is to try to tap into the supernatural, to get help from the supernatural from someone who's not God. And if you try to get help from the supernatural with someone who's not God, they're demonic. And that's a big issue. And so we don't want to seek help, supernatural help from Satan and his demons. That's why magic, sorcery, necromancy, which means communicating with the dead, is condemned in the Bible. Now, when you read those other, now let's move that. That's what the Bible says about witchcraft and sorcery, right?
Right.
You move over to Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, and those are, and there's a whole bunch of other fantasy,
Sci-fi,
all of it, right? Like, I mean, Star Wars and the Force and all that stuff, right?
I don't know nothing about that, but go ahead.
And so like all of those things at some level could be called magic, but like if you think about it, I mean, if you're tempted to contact demons because you watched Harry Potter, don't watch Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But if you're able to recognize this is a different world, this is fiction, it's different than the world we live in and the world we inhabit, and you can watch it, okay, great. Same with Lord of the Rings, same with Star Wars, same with others, right? And so like if you're tempted to try to dabble into witchcraft and communicate with demons, don't watch that stuff. Right. And this is where I can't bind the consciences of people and say it's wrong to watch that stuff. See, there's a part of literature that's called mythology, meaning it's not real. It's another world, right? That's what fiction is, right? And so that's Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, you read that trilogy, it's some of the best writing ever, right? Mm-hmm. I read it and I don't think I want to go and like wield magic like Gandalf does. I'm thinking, man, this is a story of good versus evil.
It's ironic how we're attracted to good versus evil stories.
Ironic, right? Good versus evil. And good looks like it's going to be crushed, and evil looks like it's going to win the day. And through different kinds of heroic activities, even from the most unlikely characters, good wins, right? And so I'm not tempted to go out and become a wizard.
Not enrolled in Hogwarts
okay,
school.
I'm thinking, okay, this is good literature, and the line there is going to be different for everybody. And so I can't bind someone's conscience and say you can't watch or read these books. Now, there are some books that clearly have the desire for you to practice witchcraft, use Ouija boards or whatever. Don't read those. So I can't bind the consciences of people who want to watch this stuff, but I can say don't practice sorcery.
Awesome. Well, that was a great question, and thank you for answering.
Yeah, definitely.
That.
Thanks, Catherine.
Another question. This one's from me. It's from Psalm 82.
Yes, Psalm 82.
Why does the Elohim need a council?
Okay, since you're asking this question, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
What do you mean, the Elohim, and what are you talking about, council?
Well, I'd start off and say I'm reading a book called The Unseen Realm by Dr. Michael Heiser.
Heiser, yeah.
And if you pull up Psalm 82 in verse 1, it says, God has taken his place in the divine council.
Correct.
In the midst of God's, lowercase g, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? So you see the lowercase g, God's, and you see our sovereign Lord, who we believe is, all-powerful, all-knowing, sitting amongst council.
Yeah.
And I know this translates back to Hebrew in different ways. So
I'm not going to talk about Hebrew.
No. Just more so.
But like
are there other gods? Is this talking about the Trinity?
No. So there, like if you look at verse 1, it says, God has taken his place in the divine council in the midst of the gods. Those are divine beings. I'd say supernatural. I think Heiser says divine.
Yeah, one of the two.
Supernatural. And so does God need a divine council to run the universe? No. But like Psalm 82 and other places gives us a picture of like, hold on a second, there's more going on in the unseen realm than we typically think.
Yeah.
right? And so there's more action there than we recognize. Now, should we be consumed with that and try to explain every jot and tittle away? No. Why does God have a divine council? Is he reliant on them?
Yeah.
No. But he does.
Yeah.
And so one thing we know for certain is like we're going to judge the angels. We,
Right.
Christians.
Paul says that, right? Somewhere.
We're going to judge the angels, 1 Corinthians. We're going to judge the angels. And so we're going to have a role in this hierarchy. It's not just that God created only humanity. He created angels. And if you read Revelation, there's all kinds of different angels, right? And even in the beginning, you see this shadowy group of the 24 elders. We have those are probably not humans. Those are probably some kind of angelic beings.
Yeah.
Probably it could be that they're part of this divine council that the Lord has around him. And so it's all. The other thing that's interesting is there's some shadowy references to Satan, Lucifer, being in the divine council at one point. He turned his back, led a rebellion, lost. Michael and his boys put him down.
Michael and the boys
put him down, but he led a third of the angels. They became demons. And so there's a lot more going on in the supernatural realm than we know.
Yeah.
Now, we're not invited into it, right?
Yeah.
We're not invited to discover it.
It just picks up in Genesis.
You just go, hey, you know what? It's going on. We're not supposed to go out there and identify different strongholds or strongmen, or don't mess with that. Mess with Jesus.
Yeah.
Not mess with Jesus. That's like follow Jesus.
Mess with Jesus, kids.
Don't mess with Jesus, kids. Follow Jesus. Follow Jesus, and stick to what's been revealed, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, we're not given a book on the divine council,
right,
in the Bible. So, not something we need to know.
Yeah,
it's interesting though.
It is, yeah. Just and none of this is to supersede just taking the text at face value. It's just more so his argument in the book is just like the people it was first written to had a more intrusion of a supernatural worldview than we do in the modern times.
We don't think it's supernatural terms,
right? So it's cool.
Yeah.
And
I also taught a class on. Did we record that forum night?
Yes, we did. I had to get my divine counsel, Mrs. Heather Corbett.
So we have a forum night on the unseen realm.
Yeah.
That I taught from last year sometime. Correct.
Yep. And we'll do our best to link that if we can. Actually, it might be locked, so I'm going to get back to you on that one.
Okay, I've got a wicked long.
And that was a lie.
We got a wicked long outline associated with it.
Now Heather's fogging up the glass again.
All right. Let's go on. That's it, right?
Actually, one more thing. What does the heavenly host mean?
What does a heavenly host mean? It's like, what do you think it means? Are you asking this question or somebody else in this question?
No, this is me. I have one more after this too. The next one's an easy one.
So I hope you don't have any email bell that's going on here.
Oh no, it's broken. Actually, we got to get a new one. I didn't email myself. I didn't email us.
Well,
but heavenly host. There's other places in the Bible it says that too, and I was just. Is this heavenly host just mean God, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, it's like it's God. The heavenly host is like it's his army angels in heaven, right? There's a vast company of spiritual beings, among which angels are, that are in heaven, and so the heavenly host praise him, and so it's a host of people, a bunch of people. You could back in the day they used to talk about a host like being an army.
Yeah.
Right? And so you get this in Luke 2:13, and then there was then when the announcement of Jesus' birth, and suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, saying glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill toward men. And so they're essentially worshipers of God with God.
Okay,
that's the host.
Perfect. Well, I won't bug you anymore on that one.
No, it's not bug. It's just just to make clear you're asking these questions and not someone else. Yeah.
And I have one more. It's
okay.
Also from the book. This is an easier one, I think. This text doesn't explicitly say one or the other, but why wasn't Eve surprised that a talking snake, the serpent, was talking to her in the garden? Like, there's no reaction. It doesn't say.
Well, we're not given any. She's not. He doesn't say. Yeah, the writer Moses doesn't say she was either surprised or not surprised.
Right. So maybe she was surprised.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And so, The only thing we know in Genesis 3, we get this fascinating little phrase. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. Now that's interesting. Now, remember Adam named all the animals.
Yeah.
So how do you identify one that's more crafty? Adam knows that something's more crafty.
Right.
Adam knows that the snake is more crafty. Adam knows the snake is trouble, right?
Yeah.
And then the snake saunters up to Eve and said, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? Now, when he says you in verse 1, that's plural. So it's not you, Eve, it's you, plural. He's speaking right there. It doesn't come through well in English, but he's speaking right there to Adam and Eve.
Okay.
So the trouble here is Adam should have stepped right up and said, you crafty beast, I am kicking you out of the garden because I have been given the responsibility and the role to protect the garden. And you, I'm going to kill and throw out.
Right.
But he doesn't. So the most surprising thing about Genesis chapter 3 is that Adam, as the viceroy of God, meant to extend God's kingdom on earth, does nothing. And he lets his wife be taken advantage of by somebody he knew was more crafty. The real question is, why did he allow it to slither up and talk at all?
Well, that's a question for another time.
There you go.
And that's all the questions I have for now.
For now, but there will be another Friday that comes. Because you know what, Mark? They come once every 7 days.
Every 7.
Every 7. And
Oh,
so
wow.
Rapid Fire Friday, we'll be back.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that.
All right, sounds good.
Take care, guys. Well, thank you for the questions. And remember, you can send in anonymous questions at any time. We like those. No questions off limits. So thank you for your support.
And if you have questions, just email us at info@senatorgilbert.com.
Close. That might
is
be
it?
one.
What is
Don't
it?
do that one, but
Oh, production.
yeah.
Gosh.
None of this will be on because we already have this covered in the outro.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you.
You missed-